Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Happy Halloween, everybody. What a wonderful way to kick things off with an exclusive couple of short stories from my good friend, Mr. Jim Lawrence, creator, of course, of the wonderful series Scariest Thing in the Woods. As ever, please do let us know down below in the comments what you thought. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And of course, don't forget to hashtag TeamFEAR. Why not let me know what you guys are all up to over the course of Halloween? Whether it be with friends or family, around a campfire, or a house party, or something different, please do comment below and let us know what you're all up to. And so, without further ado, let's get into tonight's story, entitled The Wolves of October. Let's get straight into that. The nuclear sub silently broke the surface of the Bering Sea. The crew scrambles the cargo ashore. The area is Ivervik National Park, in the Yukon Territory of Canada. A 4-man team, along with supplies for an extended mission, land on shore. The senior lieutenant in charge, Yuri Chernov, and 3 other Spetsnaz troops disembark and take up their supplies. It would take 2 weeks to reach the American border, and they were totally on their own. Their snowmobiles and gear, fuel and food, ammo and plenty of C4. They carried no insignia, no badge of rank, and they were complete ghosts. And knew if they were caught, the Russian government would disown any knowledge of them. They were headed to the American border over 2,200 kilometers away. Then, they had to enter the state of Washington to find a testing lab in a place called Mount St. Helens. This was not how Yuri had imagined his life would go. He was a junior lieutenant at a Siberian test lab. And when he walked through the wrong door, what he saw there not only terrified him, but as well beyond his security clearance. He was treated to be shot for his mistake, but his commanding officer said perhaps there was a use for this man instead, and so he started his training in the Spetsnaz, the Russian Special Forces. After his training, he was returned to the test site, promoted to senior lieutenant. In a conversation with the director of the facility, he was told, "Since you know what we do here, you are being sent on a covert mission to the United States to infiltrate their test site and document their progress, and, if you're capable, to destroy the place. You will then exit and return the way you come, planting any unspent ordnance at the Canadian, American DEW posts. You have our word, Lieutenant, that if anything happens to you and your men, your wife and child will be well taken care of." Those last words dripped with sarcasm, and I knew exactly what he meant. From the personal journal of Senior Lieutenant Yuri Chernov. We have made good time. We are camped for the night. The sergeant tells me the forest has eyes. I agree, and start to count our supplies. We each have a AK-47, but only 300 rounds each. We're not supposed to be seen and get into any fights. We have enough iron rations to last over a month. We were issued no radio equipment, and we were told the sub would wait for us. We have a lot of C4 also, and we will pass a DEW station tomorrow. If it is unmanned, like it's supposed to be, I will place a large charge on it. I laugh if the Canadians and Americans were not so afraid of our bombers. These sites wouldn't even exist, and we could have dropped in much closer by parachute. The warmongering dogs are afraid of the might of the USSR. Or are they? We're on their soil looking to find out their secrets and going to attack their stations that are set up entirely for defense. I would not think these thoughts if I had not entered that room by mistake and saw the abominations our scientists were working on. Now, they sent us here to see if the Americans are working on the same abominations. If they are, I am to destroy them. These thoughts do not belong in my head. I am a soldier. I am sent on a mission I will complete and return home to my wife and son. I need to remember though if I return to throw my journal into the Bering Sea. If anyone read this, my life, as well as my wife and my son, would be forfeit. The next morning, we are out of that cursed forest and back on the tundra, headed south. 2 weeks later, we're approaching the US border. This is easy. We cross the border at the Mount Baker National Forest. We leave most of our equipment hidden. The second reason I was chosen for this mission is I can speak like the Americans do. Oh, they all know I'm not from around here, as they say, but will have no clue I'm Russian. I was given American dollars to purchase a vehicle. I purchased a used, I believe they called it a minivan, and return and load up our weapons and explosives. Now, we can drive to Mount Rainier National Forest, and then to this Mount St. Helens. As we drive, this is not what we are told. This country is beautiful, and the people are friendly. I don't see a war machine, I don't see troops. I would love to explore this country. We stop at a truck stop and eat a meal. The men have orders not to speak to anyone, only I do the talking. A man leaves a newspaper on the table. I can also read English, so I pick it up. The day is May 12th, 1980. The paper doesn't speak of war or missiles or nuclear weapons. It's like these people don't care about war, and they go around happy in their lives. They may not realize that the warmongering American government is developing abominations in secret at Mount St. Helens. The next day we are at the mountain, and one of my men says it's not a normal mountain, it's a volcano. Still, just a cover-up. We must find the entrance and infiltrate the base. We camp in a forest that night and scour the area. The entrance must be here somewhere. My sergeant comes over to me and tells me we're not alone, Lieutenant. There is something out here with us. We eminently pull out our AK-47s and slam the mags home. The forest is alive with sound. Strange knocking between the trees, grunting. One of my men swears he saw something huge moving in the tree line. I give the order to only fire if we have to. We are harassed for several hours with rocks and branches being hurled into our camp, and then the strangest sound, and all is quiet. I tell the men to get ready to move. We follow the sound, and on the east face, a steel door. We have found it. It's taken a few days, but we prepare to enter the complex. We plan a series of charges along the north face and wait. We watch the door and are finally rewarded. A man in a lab coat exits the facility. One silent shot and he's dead. We move to the door. No guards. Well, this is strange. We enter and start moving through the corridors. The absence of guards is almost disconcerting. We reach the control area and there are guards there. Soldiers armed with automatic weapons. 2 more well-placed shots. Pop, pop. And the way is clear to enter what appears to be a viewing area. The bile rises in my throat as I see what they are working on. I swear, it's a werewolf. I remember in my briefing that the Nazis in World War II tried to create werewolves. These Americans seem to have accomplished this. A voice from behind yells for everyone to freeze! The ensuing firefight is not long but very deadly. We kill several, but the numbers are not in our favour. My sergeant and I are the only ones left, and we are running down the corridor being pursued by American soldiers. We pass a series of cages, more werewolves, and these large Yeti-like creatures. A burst of automatic fire sends us ducking for cover, but my sergeant ducked the wrong way, and within reach of one of those giant Yeti-like creatures. His head is pulled off from his shoulders. I cannot control my stomach as I vomit. I continue to run. I am down to my last magazine. Mission failure. And then I see it. An exit. I am back in the sunlight. It must be morning. I'm on the run, but a squad of American isn't that far behind me. I reach the north face where we planted the charges. I have a few moments. I take the time to put as much of this into my journal as I can. The soldiers are almost on me. My AK is empty, and so is my sidearm. I dig out the detonator where we left it. As the soldier rushes me, I pull my knife. The soldier stops and laughs. Kind of stupid to bring a knife to a gunfight, he says. As I depress the trigger that fires the blade, it takes him in the throat. I set off the C4 and the north side of the mountain starts to fall. I run with all my leftover strength. The line of explosions is far more than the C4 I planted. I make it to the van and make my escape. This must be reported to the Kremlin. They must know what the American devils are doing. I finish writing this in my journal, knowing that I doubt anyone will ever read it. I have managed to make it miles away. The mountain is gone. The paper says the volcano erupted. I stay off the beaten path. I must reach the Canadian border. I'm not alone. Can tell I'm being hunted. I write the rest of everything I know in my journal. I reach a small town. I'm going to try something desperate. I'm going to go to the local post office and ask the local postmaster if I might be able to send a package to an old friend that is in Europe. After paying to have the package wrapped and mailed, I finished a line in my journal with, "My darling wife, I love you, and little Yuri so much, though I doubt I will ever see you again. Raise him well." This is an insert from the Bellingham, Washington newspaper. Dates May 19th, 1980. Mount St. Helens, volcanic eruption. Thousands of acres destroyed. Unknown man found dead. No identification was found on the mutilated body of a man found in Mount Baker National Forest. Suspected animal attack. Yuri Chernov Jr. deplanes in Seattle, Washington. The 40-year-old volcanologist had been planning his trip to the United States for years. He was 12 years old when the Iron Curtain fell, and a West German friend of his father's had sent him his dad's journal. The military had said he had died a hero of the motherland. But, if this journal was true, he wanted to retrace his father's footprints. He was a volcanologist with a minor in zoology, cryptozoology to be precise, and now he wanted to find out how his father had died. The Wolves of October, Part 2. Let's get straight into that. Yuri and his companions are waiting in the baggage claim area. After they secure their baggage, they are met by two men, the older one and the other considerably younger. The older man speaks, Dr. Chernov, I presume. "I'm Bill Thompson." Yuri smiles and returns the greeting. "Dr. Thompson, it is a pleasure to finally meet you. May I present you my two assistants, Dmitri and Peter?" Dr. Thompson shakes both men's hands and says, "Allow me to introduce you to my research assistant, Stephen Smith." All the men greet each other, but Yuri asks, "But where is the famous tracker, Jim Johnson?" Dr. Thompson tells Yuri that Jim is in the state of Louisiana, settling his father's estate and helping his cousin with a transition. Jim and Lou should. His words catch him in his throat as he notices the portable animal crate being wheeled out, with a rather large wolf inside. He cannot properly judge the size of the animal in the crate, but he can tell it's huge. Peter goes to the crate and starts speaking softly to the wolf. "Hey boy, did you have a good flight?" He starts to unlatch the crate and releases the wolf, when a customs agent tells him that he cannot release the animal here. Peter scowls, but doesn't release the wolf. Peter speaks to the wolf in a soothing tone. "It's okay, rats. You will be out soon." Peter then turns and tells everyone that the wolf's name is Rasputin, and he is a Vokoso, a wolf dog, hybrid breed of the Spetsnaz to guard the borders of Russia. Peter then tells everyone that he purchased the animal because it was too large to work fetally. Yuri breaks in and says, "You were saying about Jim." "Oh yes," says Bill. "I was just saying that Jim and Lou should join us in a few days. They prefer to drive, and Lou doesn't like to fly." Yuri asks, "Who's Lou? Is he another part of the team?" Bill says, "Lou is Jim's dog. He never goes anywhere without him." Peter then speaks up with a superior tone in his voice. "Oh, And the little doggy is too afraid to fly? I hope he won't be too nervous around Raz. I will make sure Raz doesn't terrify him too much. Bill and Steve cannot control their laughter. Peter looks perplexed while Steve says, I don't think that will be a problem. Later that day, the group arrives at the base camp that has been set up and start to unpack their gear. Raz is running around free now, and he is not very friendly towards people he doesn't know. He is large, about 3 feet at the shoulders, but nowhere near as large as Lou. Yes, Bill thinks that will be an interesting meeting. The biggest surprise though is when Dimitri and Peter unpack their weapons. Peter unpacks an AK-74M, a standard Spetsnaz rifle. But there is nothing standard about that gun. While Dimitri unpacks a Dragunov SVD sniper rifle. Bill thinks to himself, these men are Spetsnaz operatives, and they are loaded for bear. The problem was Bill knew they were not out there hunting for bear. The next day came and they moved to the camp at Mount St. Helens. We spent a lot of time going over Yuri's father's journal. The 6 men hike into and around the volcano. The land has healed itself pretty well after the eruption. Bill tells Yuri it may be difficult to find this opening in the mountain. The entire north face was destroyed in 1980. Anything that we could find may be under tons of rock. I am also sure the eruption changed a lot of the landmarks. Bill believes that it would be more advantageous to start the search upstate, near Bellingham, WA. That's where the journal was mailed from before his father disappeared. That night they camp one last time in the area. Tomorrow they take the vehicles and drive to Bellingham. They settle down for the night to sleep, but about midnight they hear the first sounds in the trees. Peter awakes to the knocking in the trees. He and Ras are up in a second, only to find Jim and Steve are already awake and joins them. What is that? He says. Sasquatch. Bill says. We're in his territory, and I don't think they're happy about it. Yuri is also awake now, and the 4 men make themselves ready. Bill asks, where's your other man? He is asleep, Peter says. He can stay awake for days searching for a target, but when he goes to sleep, a nuclear blast wouldn't awaken him. The rest of the night is uneventful. The next morning, everyone is up, and when Dimitri awakes, he is unaware of the events that happened the night before. Yuri asks him, how do you sleep? I did not sleep well, he said. I barely closed my eyes. I must have slept on a rock. The others chuckle at this Dimitri, still not understanding. He says, look, I will show you. He starts to dig under his bedroll. He pulls something up and says, see? But it's not a rock. It's an old metal canteen. Bill is the first to notice. Wait, that's not English, he says. Isn't that Russian? Yuri grabs the canteen and his jaw drops open. The words on the canteen, Senior Lieutenant Yuri Chernov. It was my father's, he says. He was here, he says with a gasp. The journal is true. He was here. Later that day they arrive at Bellingham and head straight to the main post office. After explaining the situation to the postmaster, and he agrees to look at the postmark on the package. The postmaster tells them the code on the postmark shows a small substation on the southeast edge of town. He doesn't give them much of a chance to find someone that's been there 40 years and can remember one parcel. He wishes us luck, and we go on our way. Of course, we arrive, the substation is closed for the night. We find lodging for the night and return the next morning. The next morning, they return and speak with the young woman in charge there. She tells them that she has been there longer than anyone else, and that's about 10 years. Then she tells them that her father did work here back then, and he might remember something. He was retired, but still had a very clear memory. That's at least a chance. The calls are made and a meeting set up. They meet the older man at a coffee house, and he tells them he's not sure he can help until he sees the package that the journal had been wrapped in. I do remember, the older man said. That young man had almost no knowledge of the postal system. I remember wrapping it up for him and addressing it. It was a shame about him, though. Bill asks, what do you mean? The older man tells them that he was found dead a few days after that in the Mount Baker area. I believe it was an animal attack, bear or lion. It was in the paper. I'm sure the paper would still have it in the archives. They make their way to the paper and they are happy to help them. The archives are pulled up. On the second page after the story of the eruption of St. Helens was a picture of a young man that had died from an animal attack in Mount Baker National Forest, known only as John Doe. Yuri brings out a picture of his father that his mother had gave him. It looks like the same man. The journal had mentioned Mount Baker National Forest as the spot that Yuri's team had entered America and stored their gear. Bill also tells them that the area is a hotspot for Sasquatch, Gugway, and Dogman sightings, not to mention brown bear, mountain lion, wolf, and even wolverine. That night, they all discuss their options. The group decides to hunt for the stored equipment. If they find it, they will have proof and positive that the journal is correct. They gear together, they drive the 60 plus miles to the park and start their trek. The journal has the general directions, but there are no GPS codes to go by. A day later, they are deep in the forest. It is late September and there is a notable chill in the air. Bill has called Jim, who has told him that he has finished his business in Louisiana and is on his way. The trip is around 2,600 miles, so I'll catch up in 3 or 4 days. Bill, Yuri, and the rest of the group move north following the directions in the journal. They are about a day north of the road 542, heading for Bear Paw Lake. The journal said that they were near Mountain Lake when they stored the equipment. They had not known the name of the lake, and there are 2 lakes in the area, so the first is a guess. They noticed the changes as they approached the lake. The quiet is almost deafening. Peter says, "We are not alone." Ra's hackles are raised as he can sense who or what is shadowing the group. Steve says to Bill that he hopes that this is a Squatch and not a Dogman. Ha ha ha. Bill laughs and says, "Surely, Steve, after what we went through down in Louisiana, that little werewolf would scare you?" Steve rolls his eyes, but the Russians are speaking among themselves until Yuri speaks up. "Dr. Thompson, you have seen a werewolf? Please, sir, relay the story." That is a story for another time. I can't relay most of it due to the privacy concerns, but I will tell you, as a matter of fact, cryptids do exist, and so do paranormal creatures. Yuri adds in, "My father worked with that experiment at the old USSR. That was his mission here, to find out what the Americans were working on at St. Helens." They continue to move to the north side of the lake, and they decide on a place to stop for the night. The forest is still unearthly quiet. Bill and Steve set up perimeter alarms and a couple of cameras. Dimitri is visibly agitated and continues to scan the area. Then we hear him tell Peter, "We are not alone. Tonight, I do not sleep." He starts to clean and check his rifle. Raz is also highly agitated and continues to sniff the area. He knows something is out there. The men set up a watch rotation, with Dimitri staying on watch all night. The others work in 2-hour shifts, so 2 are continuously on guard. As darkness ascends, the knocking starts. Then there is movement in the trees, but no attack. It's almost like a warning. The next morning, Bill says that was a Sasquatch. They were almost warning us about something, or to just drive us out. Let's move farther north today, see if we can get out of this territory. Around noon, they find a cleft in the rocks in a small cave, just like what the journal talks about. In the back of the cave, they find what they were looking for. 2 old snowmobiles, along with some old rotted supplies. They decide to stay here tonight and hike out tomorrow. Dimitri tells the others that he's going to sleep till dark and then watch the rest of the night again. The supplies are worthless, the snowmobiles will not run, and the fuel has even gone bad. The food and water are old, even the explosives they find have no way to be detonated. Night starts to fall as they expect the same sounds from last night. They do not get them. What happens instead is total, dead silence. Peter and Raz step out of the cave under the watchful scope of Dimitri's Dragunov. Peter walks with the practiced steps of an elite soldier on guard. All at once, Raz's hackles are up, and Peter starts to walk backwards with Raz staying between his legs in a controlled retreat. A creature steps out of the tree. Both Bill and Yuri shout at the same time, "Dogman!" Though Peter yells, "Demon!" at it. It doesn't advance, it's clever. It's just standing there as if it's waiting on something. As Peter and Raz back towards the cave mouth, another rushes in from the side, a planned flanking movement. But before anyone can react, the Dragunov sounds like thunder in the night. The creature falls, but almost imminently scrambles back to his feet. A second shot rings through the night, again hitting the creature hard. Peter is back to the entrance now, and he opens up on the large creature that was in front of him. Both dogmen make it back to the tree line, though both are visibly hurt. Now a loud feral howl splits the night, and the battle is on. Throughout the night, the creatures rush the cave, only to be driven back. The groups inside cannot tell if they are even damaging them. And the next morning, they take stock. They're still alive, but after that night, exhaustion will play a major factor. The main problem is they have used more than half of their ammunition. They look outside the cave. There are no bodies. "We had to have killed some," Dimitri says, perplexed. "I know I hit them. Do they not die?" "They die," Bill says, "just not easily." Even in the light of day, they can tell there are creatures lurking inside the tree line. They will rush us again at night. Our supplies are okay for a few days, though. I wish we had more water. Again, Bill says. But our ammo is the big problem. Most of our stores are spent. If they rush us again tonight, we will be left with next to none for tomorrow. If Jim doesn't get here and find us, we may not make it out of here. You make the man sound like a Superman. What can one man do against these creatures? Bill says, Jim is exceptional, and you add Lou into the mix, they make a formidable team. Steve chimes in. I would rather have him than the Marines, or the Spetsnaz, for that matter. Dimitri, who had been listening intently, suddenly says, Yuri, I have an idea. I am more effective if I can get a better shot. I will exit the cave and try to get higher. I may get a better shot. At least, I will have a better idea of the area and situation we are in. They discuss it for a bit, both pros and cons, but in the end Dimitri's mind is made up and he leaves the cave and starts to climb. Peter covers him. As he gets higher, he gets a better view and notices 4 very still bodies in the tree line. So, we did kill a few, he says. They just dragged their bodies back into the trees. Then he notices 2 more standing, watching us. He takes a careful aim. This time, no rush, no distractions. The rapport from his rifle awakes the area, but now there is only one watching, and he has retreated deeper into the forest. The howling starts as the sun sets, and they make out about 5 different creatures. Dimitri starts to descend to get back to the safety of the cave, before it's too dark to see. The creature rushes the cave again, and the battle is on. 7:62, and 308 rounds cut through the night. Raz finally joins the fight, ripping and tearing at the giant bipedal wolves that get to the mouth of the cave. Dimitri lays prone at the cave's mouth, killing another that has rushed in. But he fails to notice the lone dogman that has come up behind him. He is pulled back, and his scream is short as the creature rips open his back, and then he screams no more. Peter is standing in the opening, Raz at his side. He ejects his mag and slams his last one home. He fires the last 30 rounds from his AK-74, yelling out, I'm out! And the other 3 men echo the same. With their weapons now silenced, they draw their knives. They know there isn't much chance, but they will go down fighting. There are 3 huge dogmen silhouetted by the moonlight. Then they let it have it. A long, full howl splits the night. The remaining dogmen give pause for a second. Then the largest wolf anyone has ever seen comes racing in, knocking the first Dogman into another, sending both of them for a slow roll. Then a man steps out into the clearing, levelling his rifle, blows the chest out of the remaining creatures. The one that had been knocked back by Lou's charge run into the forest. But the one between Lou's powerful jaws is going nowhere. Bill runs out of the cave and grabs Jim Johnson in a bear hug, saying, "Son, I'm so very glad to see you." Introductions are made. Peter and Raz stare in awe at the size of Lou. Lou and Raz seem to size each other up for a few moments, but there isn't any aggression between the two large wolf dogs. After taking care of the body of their fallen friend, they retire to the cave, spending the night studying the journal. Jim tells the rest that it isn't over yet. "I want to see what's in Mount St. Helens." Bill points out it's under tons of rock. Jim shaking his head. You know the government, Bill. I doubt very seriously they abandoned that base. I will be willing to bet it's still accessible. The next day, after securing the body of Dimitri so they can transport it out, they pass the area where they heard the Sasquatch knocking. Jim and Lou disappear for a few hours. When they return to the group, "We have leave to pass," he says. They are also grateful. The Dogman pack was in competition with them for food. But the pack was too large, and this clan too small, so they had an uneasy truce. Another day, and they'll reach the head of a trail, then back to the vehicles. They head back to Willingham and take Dimitri's body to the coroner. The official report goes down as bear attack. The body taken care of, they end up in a tavern on the outskirts of town to toast their dead friend and make their plans for heading back to St. Helens. Both Lou and Raz are still acting friendly towards each other, though Raz is still standoffish, but also somewhat submissive. Jim is sitting drinking his Jack Daniels when he hears an old familiar taunt. "I hate stinking wolves. Get 'em out of here, now!" A man staggers to his feet, but it's Peter that meets him across the floor. "You don't scare me, boy. I've seen the walking wolves up in Canada." Bill asks him to sit down and relay his story. The man sits and tells them his name is Sam Wade. "I run a logging camp up in Canada." Jim interjects, "An illegal logging camp." Sam looks at Jim evilly. "Be that as it may, we were attacked and run out by those damn walking wolves." Peter spits. "All wolves walk." Sam spits back, just as violently, "but not on two legs." As the evening ends, Jim tells Bill, "I will check out Mount St. Helens with ya. But after that, I need to head north to see if I can find Tony." And Bill says, "Be careful, son. The October winds blow cold." Wow. Absolutely powerful, gripping, fantastic storyline there, Jim. Thank you so much, brother. A happy Halloween to you and yours. Guys and girls, you know the drill. As ever, please do let us know down below in the comments what you thought. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And of course, don't forget to hashtag TeamFEAR. If you yourself think you can pen the next masterpiece for the channel, why not get in touch with myself over at the website, which is www.dmtforesterfear.com. I hope you're all well and happy and having a fantastic time with family and friends over the Halloween festivities. And above all, remember, be safe, not sorry.